Thrusting weapons. We love them and we hate them. We mostly hate them because they are very cheesy on PvP. They are also very cheesy on PvE. And people loves to hate and hates to love things that are cheesy in Elden Ring, but such as the game that was given to us. And we have to take advantage of it. The main thing that this weapon is cheesy for is because of the kind of build that you can make with it by bulwarking behind a shield and poking infinitely and endlessly for all ages. And also, this also happens with the Bloody Helix, but the Bloody Helix, the thing which is also a build that I have also made. The thing is with the Bloody Helix is that that thing has a little bit more of a dancer kind of style build, playstyle. Although it isn't Bleed as well, so it is going to be hated for that as well. You're going to be hated in Elden Ring regardless of your playstyle. Nevertheless, this was a very popular weapon in PvP for quite a while. It was actually a meta weapon for quite a while until people discovered how to properly dodge it. Actually, I'd never felt this thing to be a big huge of a hazardous thing in PvP. It's very predictable. It leaves you quite open. It is going to one-shot you if they manage to land it. But that is going to be the main attractive of this weapon. The Ash of War. The Ash of War of the weapon is going to be the thundercloud form, which is going to turn you into thunder. And it's going to make you deal thousands amounts of damage to enemies while doing so. So let's talk about the Ash of War. The Ash of War, it's going to turn you into this red mist. And the amazing thing is that while you are in that animation, you have a huge amounts of poise damage to the enemy. So if someone is trying to strike against you while you are doing this animation, you are going to stagger them back, and they are not going to be able to interrupt you from that animation. The downside of the weapon, the downside of this Ash of War, is that it's very tricky to nail the hits, especially with very mobile enemies, and especially with very small enemies. Everything else, this thing is going to devastate them. Mainly because the damage that you are going to be dealing with this is going to linger between the 2000 and 4000. Yes, you heard me right. This also has 30% increased damage against dragons and ancient dragons. And on top of that, one of the most amazing things about this weapon is that the cool animation that you have while you're striking people with it, which is this red thunder that engulfs the enemy on it while you are using it. It's all in all, from wherever you would like to see this weapon from, it's an amazing weapon. Although people is going to hate you for it because it's a dexterity weapon. So yeah, anyways, people is going to hate you in Souls games by basically using anything that is not just a basic glove and a armorless deprived. Such is the thing with the Souls games. That being said, that's what the weapon is going to be. I am thinking heavily on making this my weapon as my build for Shadow of the Erdtree. Now, the shield that was buffed in patch 108, so it's very amazing. Again, all of this gameplay that you're seeing is from New Game Plus 8, so I am getting staggered quite a lot by the enemies with this setup right now. This is just New Game Plus 7. It shouldn't give you that much trouble on the regular playthrough nor the early stages of New Game Pluses, so on and so forth, if you are using this build to play Shadow of the Erdtree, right? So that is what this build is going to give you. Immense defense, infinite defense, and huge amounts of damage and poise damage. It's just all in all a beautiful build. These are the stats that you are going to be needing for each one of them builds. The stats for 75, the stats for 120, and the stats for 150. There are some tweaks that you can make in here, and as a matter of fact, I do advise for you to make some tweaks. You can change the endurance level and the mind level. We are going to be spamming 2 Ashes of War, the Bulwark Shield and the Ash of War of the weapon itself. So it's going to be highly consuming on FP. So my advice is also for you to carry as much flasks of Cerulean Tears as possible. I would say that with 3 should be more than enough, especially to down most of the bosses. So you're most likely going to have 9 flasks of Crimson Tears and 3 flasks of Cerulean Tears. Now, again, you can either, on the final version of the build, and as you level up, you can have a 30 mind, depending on how much FP are you consuming, or 30 endurance, depending on how heavy do you want to be. How heavy do you want your armor to be? So basically, if you are not going to be using endurance that much, we are going to be using the Great Jar's Arsenal. But if we're not using the Great Jar's Arsenal, there are some very interesting talismans that we can use. So before we dive into the talismans, equipment, so on and so forth, let's talk about the amazing dexterity and the classes that you should be picking up to min-max this build. Any melee classes, it's going to be more than enough for you to min-max this build. So Samurai, Warrior, Vagabond, Hero, all of them start with amazing amounts of dexterity and strength. But I would advise for you to either choose the Warrior or the Samurai, because you do need to reach 37 dexterity as soon as possible, which is the requirements of the weapon. At the end of the day, this is an endgame weapon that you're not going to be able to get until you reach the endgame. So yeah, there is that. That is one of the downsides of the build as well, that you have to be in endgame to properly start building this weapon and getting this weapon, opposite to many other different builds that we have made. But you can take my previous build, my ornamental straight sword build, and then pair it up. As a matter of fact, you can basically use this with as a combo with the ornamental straight sword and this thing to be kind of a knight's sword and lance knight. This is not a lance, it's a thrusting blade, but it looks like a lance. If you believe it, it's going to be whatever you want it to be, right? So back again, we have 80 dexterity, 80 soft cap dexterity, which is going to give us roughly 742 damage. Let's round it up. Let's say that it's going to be 750 damage, which is amazing for a weapon of this kind that is so fast attacking, and that is also going to allow you to attack from behind a shield. So that is chef's kiss. Beautiful. So now let's talk about the equipment. The Dragonking Cragblade, that's going to be the basic of it all. The Brass Shield, it's the medium shield with the higher guard boost. The Dorito Shield, it's one of my favorite shields in the game, and since you do require to have 18 strength to be able to use the Dragonking's Cragblade, you basically have the requirement already met. As for the armor, whatever suits your style. Now for the talismans, we are going to be using the Spear Talisman, which is going to allow you to... What this thing does is that when you attack from behind a shield, if you're countering an attack, it's going to increase the damage. Then we have the Great Shield Talisman. We want to have as much guard boost as possible. Then Shadow of Alexander. We are going to be using the Shadow of War for this weapon. And as a matter of fact, since the damage of this thing is so high, the percentage that the Shadow of Alexander is going to give us is going to be that much more amazing. Now in here there are some things that you could be doing. So for example, if you decided to go through the FP consumption thing, if you want to be spamming a little bit more, then you decided to take a little bit more FP, then you should be taking Great Jar's Arsenal in case you want to be using heavier armor. If you want to spam a little bit more, or as a matter of fact so much more, the FP, the Ash of War, then by all means take the Carrion Fieldgrid Crest, which is going to allow you to spam that much more. The Ashes of War, both for the shield and for the weapon. And then finally, a very solid choice could be the Lightning Scorpion Charm. This is going to increase the damage intake that you take, but it's also going to increase the damage output that you do. and it's going to give you roughly 50 points into damage. So if we round the numbers again, it's not going to be 800, but it's going to be almost 800 for a very fast attacking one-handed weapon that is always going to allow you to deal damage from behind a shield. And this thing is also going to impact the Ash of War of the weapon, because the damage base of the Ash of War, it's going to be electric base. So that is basically everything that you need for the build. Finally, we are going to be using the Flasks of Wondrous Physiques. The main thing that you're going to be using is going to be the Lightning Crack Shroud tier. The rest of it is just matter for your personal preference, whatever you would like to use. And then again, just to wrap up the video, what is this build and weapon going to give you? It's going to give you versatility because you have high defense. You have high survivability because you can be attacking from behind a shield as much as you want. So as a matter of fact, during exploration, what I would advise for you is to always be behind a shield, because by being behind a shield and using barricade shield is not going to consume that much FP, and you're never going to be damaged unless your weapon bounces, unless the enemy is being annoying and the hitbox of the shield do not count that much. But for 80% of the time or 90% of the time, it's going to work. Trust me, it is going to work. It's cheesy, it's way too easy, you're going to be criticized for it, but you're going to be having lots of fun. And then with some of the tougher enemies, just spam the Ash of War. Spam the Ash of War, and if you feel that is someone that is going to deal those shenanigans and BS kind of movesets that the enemies have, where they start swinging and jumping around the edge of the screen, and you can basically use your Ash of War, which is going to make them flinch, is going to stagger them, and then is going to finally kill them. Again, use the Ash of War at your discretion, because it's really hard to control. Sometimes it will not deal damage to the enemy and it will leave you open, so you do need to have to master it a little bit, but for most of the time, 80% of the time, you're going to be one-shotting things. Anyways, like the content, like the video. Liking the video is super appreciated. No, I told you today you're a gorgeous and beautiful person. You are indeed a gorgeous and beautiful person. Subscribe to the channel before you close the door, and I'll be seeing you goddamn gorgeous and beautiful people in the next one. Have a beautiful day and goodbye.